stripped down show today, ladies and gentlemen. I was going to title this show Superb Owls, Superlatives, and Superbugs because there's a lot going on. All four of us, and I include Bars in that, have some form of something. It's February, so Jurg is hit a little bit harder than the rest, so he's not joining us today. Bars, I think he's more allergic to my prop bets than anything else because apparently they haven't hit. So, rather not do that. So, it's a two-man show for the two-person, two-team Super Bowl, Superb Owl, as you see the Owls in the background. Welcome to episode 139 of Sports Agents of Chaos. Dynasty versus Destiny. Maybe. I don't know. Destiny for the Eagles? Maybe. Who knows? Podfather here. Justin there. Justin, what do you have? What do you got going on? You're under the weather this week.
Illness-wise?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't feel great. I was in bed all day yesterday. I assume I have what – I guess I don't think I have what Jurg had, but I certainly felt that way yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was able to get out of bed today, which is good.
Yeah.
Last
week I was upstate, and it was like negative degrees upstate, so I caught something up there, transferred it down here, and it's varied. Like the symptoms shift every day to something else, something new. I'm doing better now, but I'm telling you, I've not been able to sleep in my own bed for the past 2 or 3 nights because the air is so dry that it kills everything. So I have to sleep downstairs, which makes my dog crazy because if you know one thing about my dog, she wants to go where the pack is. But the pack's split, where's she going? So who knows? It's tough, but we're doing all right. Hopefully everyone feels better. This is the last week of the season, the last games of the season, not counting the celebrity flag football game that nobody watched because let's be honest here, nobody watched it.
I didn't even know it was happening until I saw highlights this morning.
Yeah, it looked like it was in a damn convention center. Remember when the Arena Bowl was in the mall in Jersey? It was like that.
That had more hype than this.
It did, and it stretches the truth of a celebrity games. When you only know maybe 1/10 of the people that are in it because they were former NFL players, it's a problem for me. But we are going to have some discussion here regarding some things that happened this week. Some conjecture. There was obviously the NFL honors, so we'll talk about the award winners. We'll talk about the Hall of Fame class that was named. Maybe somebody got snubbed here and there, but it's a restrictive Hall of Fame class, so we'll see what happens there, and then we'll talk about the big game. And if you watch it, if you don't, like me, coming up next, anything but the big game. Whittling, scrimshaw, falconry. We'll do a lot of different things on the show.
Are you prepared for your 4-hour whittling?
I was prepared, and then the illness took a lot out of me, so I haven't gotten as far in my whittling as I thought I would. So I'm going to have to save it and make a big production next year when it's going to be the Chiefs and the Eagles again, because let's be honest here, we know what's going to be, for sure.
All I'm saying is that historically, I would think it's going to be Chiefs-Niners.
Maybe. It's possible. Especially if, well, that's the thing. I'm not sure if you heard some of the trade rumors that are going around now. Obviously, the one broke out this morning about Debo possibly being traded from San Francisco. So,
that happens every offseason.
It does. It's true. It's true. Yeah. Let's kick things off, though, with our first discussion. And because Jerry's not here, I get to do this because this is going to be a lot of fun. The NFL Honors, presented by Haley Steinfeld. Because obviously, her fiance was the big winner of the night for the NFL Honors. He was the most valuable player, named such by the voting committee, along with other awards that were there. But this was the big one that everyone kind of, I think, wanted to know what was going to be the voting style, what was going to be the breakdown of it. And it turns out that Josh Allen had a phenomenal enough season that he took home that honor, that award. So there were 5, I think, finalists for it. Josh Allen was one of them, along with Lamar Jackson and a few other players. Saquon Barkley had some votes. The full list of voting, though, we can break this down a little bit further. But early on, Justin, what were your thoughts about Josh Allen being named the MVP?
Like I said, I didn't see it. He had a really good season, and then maybe in another year, if he had that season last year, he would have beat out Lamar 10 out of 10 times. But to beat out the season Lamar had this year didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Even if they had 1 more win, 2 more wins, they even had the Ravens had that regular season head-to-head win there. So it didn't really make a ton of sense to me. I don't want to take anything away from it because he did have a fantastic season. It's just, I don't know. I didn't think it was MVP caliber compared to the other ones. I would have probably chose Saquon out of everyone. To be completely honest, I think he had the biggest impact on his team.
Yeah.
His team was arguably the best team in the regular season. You take him off that team, and you're probably telling a different story about the Eagles this year, in my opinion. But it is what it is. I'm not going to take anything away from Josh Allen. Like I said, it is a fantastic season. He was incredible this year.
Yep.
I just didn't think that he was the best player of the year this year.
It depends on the stats you look at. He was 14th overall in passing yards, 3,731, a good TD to interception ratio, 28-6, but first overall in QBR, which I guess whatever that is good for, whatever that means. Last year, I know we did this too, so I'm going to go ahead and do this as well. Rob Maddie on Twitter, Rob RMAADDI, had the entire breakdown of all the votes that were there. So I want to share this with you because I think that this is interesting and telling. There were 5 finalists, but it doesn't mean that there were 5 players that got votes, which I think is interesting. So, all right, let's break this down for you here. So again, 50 voters, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Baker Mayfield got 2 fifth-place votes with 2 points. He had a good season. He had a decent season, I think. Just
5th place, though?
Yeah. Well, it gets better. It gets better. Just in front of him with 3 fifth-place votes.
Who?
Just in front of him with 3 first-place votes.
Oh, I thought you said Justin Tucker. And I was
yeah,
he had a horrible season by his own standards.
No. The player that was just in front of Baker Mayfield with 3 fifth-place votes. Clearly, they didn't watch the last 2 games of the year, but Sam Darnold.
See, I would have put Sam Darnold in front of Baker. Yeah. That's fair.
I think it would have been fine.
Yeah, I mean, he did kind of crash out the last 2 games of the year, but Sam had a pretty good year.
Yeah. And the next up with joint 6 points, one player had 2 fourth-place votes and 2 fifth-place votes, and one player had 3 fourth-place votes. Jamar Chase and Justin Herbert. Herbert, I don't really think
Herbert seems questionable there.
Yeah, I that to me is a little weird there. Then above them with 8 points, 2 fourth and 4 fifth-place votes. An interesting pick, and I think showing of how good his season was. Jaden Daniels, the rookie of the year from Washington, got some MVP consideration.
I don't hate it. It's not where I would have gone, but. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have put him in front of maybe Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is better.
I think so. I think that would have been much better, but, Now we get up to the higher totals. 31 total points here. 3 third, 8 fourth, and 6 fifth because, of course, this is the narrative. Patrick Mahomes. Which, I mean, this is what it is. This is what it is.
It's hard to see. This is where it gets muddy because are we talking purely statistical?
Probably.
Are we talking the guy that wins the most games? I mean, you don't want to put wins as a quarterback stat, but that being said, how many times does this dude come back when this team needs a play and he's the guy? And they won how many one-possession games this year?
Yeah.
I don't want to be this Chris Collinsworth guy, oh, how about that Patrick Mahomes every time he does something? But
now here's a guy.
Let's face it, he is that guy. He has been that guy the last 5 years. Until someone dethrones him, he is that guy. So
I think the narrative going into this one, I think the narrative
he didn't have that season.
Yeah, the narrative I think going into it was, if he got any first place votes, then there was definitely conspiracy, but he didn't. So he was 6th overall, which I think fine for the year that he had.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think so too. I do. Above him with 47 points, 6 third-place votes, 5 fourth place, and 19 fifth-place votes, the most fifth-place votes out of anybody, Jared Goff and the Lions. Yeah, again, decent enough there. And then 4th place, here's an interesting one for you. 1 second place, 15 third, 10 fourth, and 12 fifth for 82 points, Joe Burrow.
They got to figure out that team, and they got to figure out the defense, and they got to figure out the offensive line, and they got to figure out how to win some games in September.
Yep.
Because let's face it, they are a month away from that dude winning MVP.
Oh, yeah.
if they were any sort of relevant at the beginning of the year and could have stayed the way that they are and made the playoffs, let's face it, not a single team wanted to see them make the playoffs this year.
No.
Not one.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I mean, to have the slow start that they did and him still finished with that touchdown and yardage numbers with the interception numbers, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. They win 2 more games and it's a different MVP, I think.
Absolutely. I agree with you there. Third place, 1 second place vote, 25 third place, 19 fourth place, and 2 fifth place for 120 total points, Saquon Barkley, who, again, if this were not a quarterback-driven league, I think would have gotten a lot more consideration for MVP. Third place for a running back, the way that he had his season, it's a nice stat, but again, like, he's playing today.
This is the first year. This is the first year, I think, in a long time that people are legitimately saying that was a little biased.
Yeah.
Saquon was that guy, man. He was. When was the last time we saw a 2,000-yard rusher with that kind of impact and that kind of? I mean, he was so much more than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what? If he catches that ball in the Falcons game to end the game, it's a different story. But he didn't catch it.
Sure.
Falcons won. It's been downhill ever since.
For sure. Now, this is where it gets interesting because you have Josh Allen, who was first over Lamar Jackson. Let's break down the voting here because it was 383 to 362. So the votes don't really matter. If you change around 1 or 2, it's not going to be that crazy. But Josh Allen had 27 first place votes, 22 second place votes, and 1 third place vote. Lamar Jackson had 23 first place votes, 26 second place votes, and Chicago journalist Jim Miller, I don't know if you saw this, put him 4th.
I feel like some of these people need to have their votes revoked. There's
I
too much
agree.
politics, for one. And I don't understand. I also don't understand how these same voters have him first team All-Pro and second in the MVP voting.
Yeah.
Like,
it doesn't
there's
make
too much
sense.
politics. There's too much too much bullshit. I forgot who I was for a second. And look, just let's admit they got it wrong.
Yeah.
You got it wrong.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, for whatever BS you have, you got it wrong. And again, it has nothing to do with Josh Allen. I do think he had probably deserved to be second. Like I said, it was a really, really tough year for voting. It was a tough year in the opposite way. It was a tough year last year, where last year it didn't really feel like anyone deserved it. This year it felt like 3 or 4 guys probably deserved it.
Probably did.
And if you put any one of those top 4 guys in this year's voting, that's the guy that wins last year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Incidentally,
it had to be Lamar. It was
incidentally, Lamar. Here's another thing for. I'm really mad that Jerg's missing this one out this episode because of this reason alone. In 2020, Jim Miller, the voter in question, voted for Lamar Jackson as MVP, but not for first team All Pro quarterback. You know who his first team All Pro quarterback was?
Who?
Russell Wilson.
I mean, I don't understand. We need to have this guy on here to explain his thinking here because I don't get it.
Apparently he's a former quarterback. Like why wouldn't you help out your brethren? Why would you try and shun one guy? You know?
But again, then it goes back to politics. I don't want you voting just because the guy's a quarterback.
Yeah, but okay. So he put Allen in first place because there was no other outlying first place vote. You know, remember last year when we talked about this, that Dak had a 1 random first place vote from somebody. So, you know.
I thought Dak deserved to be much higher last year.
I thought so. I thought he did, but apparently didn't. So, Josh Allen is the MVP. What do you make of Jonathan Ogden's comments, by the way, about it, where it's like, oh, we have to give Josh Allen 1 because Lamar's won too many. We have to give him 1.
I think that Josh Allen probably deserves to have 1 eventually. I just don't necessarily know that this was the year. Like I said, I'm not like upset. I don't want to take anything away from Josh Allen's win. I do think that it was like it's not that he didn't deserve it. It's that I thought that other people might have just deserved it more.
Yeah.
I mean, the only stats that he had above Lamar would be QBR and rushing touchdowns.
Right.
We're not talking wins are not a quarterback stat. It's a team game. I'll stand by that. That being said, you do get punished for not winning, but that's a different story.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah, but it didn't. He just wasn't the best player. He wasn't the most valuable player on his team. I don't know. He was the most valuable player on his team. I thought Lamar, statistically, clutch wise, in big moments, had the best year.
Right.
I guess this is why it's up for debate. I don't want to sit here and say that it wasn't, at least as a quarterback. Like I said, I think Saquon probably should have won that award, but
Yeah.
it's not that I think Josh doesn't deserve it. Because again, I mean, even if how much it pains me to say it, he was the guy. He was the best player in Buffalo. He was the best player in his division. It wasn't Josh to me.
If Josh Allen and the Bills made the Super Bowl, would that have changed your vote or your mind, do you think?
It's not supposed to.
It's not supposed to, but do you think it would have?
It's hard to say. I can't say no.
That's a tough question to ask. Yeah.
It might have.
Well, let's move on to another interesting voting. So I remember last year we had that controversy with the Coach of the Year. There wasn't much controversy this year, although when you look deeper at the voting, there's some pretty controversial names on this list and where they were. So let's start from the very bottom. 2 points with 1/4 place vote for John Harbaugh.
John is in
Ravens.
Yeah. I always get them confused.
Ravens.
I mean, it was nice to see them relevant again, but there were some moments where I thought that maybe he was costing his team games.
Tied with 3 points here, 1/4 place vote and 1/5 place vote for Todd Bowles of the Buccaneers.
It hurts me, but I don't disagree.
And even though I don't like him, but I think this is about media bias, 3 fifth place votes for Nick Sirianni of the Eagles. Only 3 points.
Yeah, he probably deserved a few more, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Sirianni guy, but it's hard to deny what he's doing there in Philadelphia. I mean, this is his second Super Bowl in 3 years. The dude has been legit. And when they needed a break and a reset and to have his team, focus down, because there was a lot of questions at one point before their bye.
Yeah.
And they rattled off, 5 straight? So.
Yeah. 7 points, 1/3 place, and 2 fourth place votes for Matt LaFleur of the Green Bay Packers. The guy who I'm always trying to fire every year, apparently, it seems like, but he never leaves. So I don't have that power. You and Jerk have that power to fire coaches, obviously, but I don't have that power, apparently.
I don't think he deserves to be fired. I think he's been
It's
pretty good. He's in a tough division, and he stays relevant every year.
Yeah. 9 points, 1/3, 1/4, and 4 fifth place votes for Sean McVay of the Rams.
We already know who Sean McVay is.
Yep. 3/3, 3/4, and 1/5 place vote for 16 points. Friend of the show, Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
somehow
but I'm
never
trying to
goes
question,
away.
especially after those Edelman comments. And I don't usually, give a lot of weight to those, but it seems pretty spot on.
Yeah.
He's had success with it, so it's hard to turn your back on it. But teams figure it out, and the good teams know what to do in the playoffs.
I agree with that. 3 second, 1/3, 5 fourth, and 4 fifth for 32 points. Sean McDermott of the Buffalo Bills. Yeah.
Okay.
3 second.
I can't say anything. I don't want to be a hater here.
3 second, 3/3, 12 fourth, and 11 fifth for 59 points. Jim Harbaugh of the Chargers. I think this is deserved. He had a very good first season.
Yeah,
it didn't end well, but he had a very good first season. Yeah,
a lot of people didn't know what to think, especially the way he drafted and the way he came out, and there was a lot of question marks on that team going into the year, especially after the way things ended last year.
Yeah,
I think he did an excellent job.
Now we get to the top 5, and here's an interesting name to start at the bottom of the top 5. 1 first, 2 second, 10 third, 5 fourth, and 11 fifth for 71 points. Sean Payton of the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, he had a pretty good year, I guess.
Yeah, good enough. Controversial here that he wasn't higher than this. 1 first, 6 second, 7 third, 8 fourth, and 8 fifth for 85 points. Dan Quinn of the Commanders.
I think he should have been higher.
He should have been higher to me, I think. Because 4 first, 8 second, 9 third, 4 fourth, and 4 fifth at 119 points was Andy Reid. I mean,
let's not. All right, hear me out when I say this because he gets a lot of hate. Let's not LeBron these awards.
no.
Let's face it. LeBron has been in the league 20 years now.
Yeah.
He's won how many MVPs?
Too many.
No, not enough.
Sorry.
Let's face it. Let's face it. He should have been MVP. So, and because he didn't do things that you expect to be even better the next year, like what he averaged, like 30 points and 10 rebounds for like 10 straight seasons, and other people were winning awards. Like, come on. Yeah. Andy Reid is among the best coaches in the league and deserves to be in the talks, even if he's not necessarily going to win. They won 15 games this year, and they didn't win it because Patrick Mahomes is the second coming, or the defense is nasty, but they are a well-coached team.
I just think personally that when you have that large of a gap between Andy Reid, obviously, the number 1 seed, and Dan Quinn, who basically took the Commanders from nothing and made them a relevant team and made them a Final Four contender, that to me is a bit of a question mark there almost.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that maybe Dan Quinn should have got more love, but who's to say it's not a fluke? I mean, we gave it to Daboll, and he hasn't been relevant since.
Well, yeah, I mean, Daboll. Well, we'll get to the Giants in a little bit. Dan Campbell was second place, 19 first place votes, 10 second, 8 third, 8 fourth, and 3 fifth for 283 points. And then Kevin O'Connell, Coach of the Year, 25 first place votes, 18 second, and 7 third, 361. So, bit of a runaway here for O'Connell in this one.
This one I think they got right.
I think so too.
I think that for whatever everyone expected this year, they were above and beyond. They were a well-coached team. And even in the last couple games, when Sam struggled, they still put themselves in the right position to be in these games towards the end of the game. And I know one of them ended up being a real blowout. But they were relevant all year long. And they were in the right position. And I think that they were well coached. And I even think that you saw the effects of coaching in that playoff game, in the Rams game. Even though it never really felt close, they were not necessarily really out of it. I mean, I know the line breaking down was rough. Sam held the ball for too long. And, part of that's a little bit on coaching, sure. But they were in it, and they were never... It didn't seem like they were broken. It seemed like they were just not as good.
Right.
Talent-wise.
Right.
So, I think they got this one right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dan Campbell the Lions had a great season, but the way that Kevin O'Connell manufactured that team and made them relevant again when no one gave them a shot, I think you deserves full credence for that. So, just wish it wasn't Sam Darnold. It should have been somebody else because, us Jets fans were like, again, somebody else, go somewhere else. It does better. Defensive Rookie of the Year, we're not going to go over the full list of it, but I'm going to give you the first place winners so that you kind of have an idea. Jared Verse did win this award with 37 out of 50 first place votes, which I think was expected. He had a great rookie season with the Rams. Really did. Was a force out there. Was what they wanted to have when Aaron Donald retired. He became that guy. So that was, I think, huge. But who got the other 13 first place votes? Well, Quinyon Mitchell of the Eagles had 9 and finished in second place overall. Versus teammate Braden Fisk had 1, and it was third. So that means there's 3 other first place votes that are off there. If I gave you guesses to who you think it would be, I don't know if you'd get it, Justin. Not saying that you're not smart when it comes to football, but I don't know if you'd get it. Because it's not Cooper DeJean. It's not Chad Robinson. Mike Sanderstil of the Commanders got 1. Kalen Bullock, I think he's on the Vikings or the Texans. I forget which one he is. He got 1. And this one, I had to look up who this guy was. Tareem Still of the Chargers got 1. I had to look up his stats to verify this. 45 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 10 passes defended this season are his main stats. it gets interesting when you get to like these Rookie of the Year votings because this is when you start to get a lot more tribal into who gets what. But Jared Verse, no question, no complaints here on my mind. Deserved it. Had an excellent rookie season, and a harbinger of things to come for the Rams. I think he's going to be a star in the defensive line. So, yeah,
I think he got it right. I like Jared Verse. He had a great year.
I think so too. All right, that was defensive rookie. Offensive rookie of the year we know was Jaden Daniels, obviously. 49 points for first place. Almost swept, but somebody voted for Brock Bowers instead over him. So Jaden Daniels had 495 points to Brock Bowers' 214. Interestingly enough, the tight end didn't get all the second place votes because Bo Nix got 15 and Brian Thomas got 2. You go down further on the list. It's funny. Jaden Daniels, second pick, 49 first place votes, Rookie of the Year. Caleb Williams, first pick, 2 fifth place votes, only 2 points. The gap, pretty significant. Shout out to Ladd McConkey also getting a few points. He had a great season for the Chargers.
He did.
I think deserved a little bit more than what he got, but that's the humor there. Comeback Player of the Year. This was a lot of people had votes, had points. This I think was interesting because it went to Joe Burrow. I know we talked about J.K. Dobbins possibly being a guy. We talked about Sam Darnold possibly being a guy, but there are some interesting names that are on this list too that, comeback player of the year doesn't really fit what they came back from, I think. So let me give you some of the names of guys who earned votes for comeback player of the year. We can talk about it. Jameson Williams, I think, came back from gambling. I think. I could be wrong. Anthony Richardson got a vote. I don't know what he necessarily came back from.
He missed a lot of games last year.
I know he did, but that was also, his style. Like, he came back and just played his own style and got hurt again, So what was the point?
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. So Christian Gonzalez got 2 first-place votes and 69 total points. He had less first-place votes than DeMar Hamlin, because we're going to keep that narrative going. And Tim Patrick. I did not see Tim Patrick coming on this list.
No, I didn't either, but he definitely came back.
Yeah, he did. And Saquon had a second-place vote, apparently, too. Because, of course, he did. Sam Darnold, 8 first-place votes. Again, a lot of it is, you come back from being cast off from another team, apparently. Versus actually being a Joe Burrow type that had the injury. Or Dobbins that had the injury. So, I don't know. A little suspect to me there. But Burrow wins that one pretty easily. Offensive Player of the Year goes to Saquon Barkley, which we thought was going to happen. I think the shocking things here were Jamar Chase not getting any first place votes, even though he won the receiving Triple Crown.
Really?
Yeah. 0 first place votes.
Saquon unanimous as the
35 for Saquon, 12 for Lamar, 1 for Derrick Henry, 1 for Joe Burrow, 1 for Josh Allen. None for Jamar Chase.
Oh, listen, I'm a huge Derrick Henry fan, but when you have the second best season and you're being, I just don't get. At some point, these awards become nonsense.
They're jokes. They're jokes for some of them. Well, here's where it gets even more jokey, because I think you'll appreciate this further. There were 5 votes in total that went to offensive linemen.
For Offensive Player of the Year?
Yeah. Joe Thuney had 2 fourth-place votes. Penei Sewell had 2 fifth-place votes. And Jordan Mailata had 1 fifth-place vote.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay.
So I'm all about, giving Lennon credit.
But this is where it's going to hurt the most. Ready? Here's who Joe Thuney had more points than. Josh Jacobs. George Kittle. Baker Mayfield. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kyron Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Patrick Mahomes. Those guys that I named, 2 points and 1 point. Joe Thuney had 4. Yeah. Can we restrict those voters too, please?
I think that obviously there needs to be change, but
yeah. And then the last one we're going to talk about, defensive player of the year. This one was a little interesting because I don't think we gave Pat Surtain enough credit during the year on how good of a cornerback he was. He wins this one going away with 330 total points, including 26 first-place votes. Next up on the list was Trey Hendrickson with 11 first-place votes and 205. First-place votes also went to Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Kirby Joseph, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, and Zach Bond. Interestingly enough, a name I didn't say because he didn't get a first-place vote, Xavier McKinney, who I think led the league in interceptions for most of the year. But Surtain had a great year. No question about it in my mind. But didn't really get the credit because, again, they're playing in Denver, and it's kind of like you're not supposed to be anything good. And you saw this year they had a very good season. They surprised a lot of people. And Surtain, I think, was a big part of that. So, interestingly enough, also, for more Jets hate Jets, why does this happen to us? Leonard Williams had 4 points.
Good for him. I like Leonard Williams.
I like him too. That was very good. Thought he had a very good year. But so that was it. Oh, actually, assistant coach of the year. New Chicago Bears head coach Ben Johnson, 29 first place votes. While you had, this is interesting. In terms of the first place votes, Aaron Glenn, the Jets new head coach, 6 first place votes. And then you had Brian Flores and Vic Fangio with 3. Joe Brady, Liam Cohen, and Steve Spagnuolo each with 2. Todd Monken, Cliff Kingsbury, and Jeff Stoutland with 1 first place vote each. Ben Johnson won this going away 364 total points to Brian Flores' 143 for second place. Good offense. Let's see what does in Chicago, I suppose. Let's see what happens there. But those were the awards. By the way, Jurg mentioned, since he's watching at home on the Sick podcast, that Richardson came off the bench from being too tired. So clearly that's why he got his vote. But, good for you. Now let's get to the other part of this week that was really interesting. The 2025 Hall of Fame class was named. And there were some interesting omissions. Let's call it that. A lot of guys didn't make it. This is a class where you have to get 80% of the vote from your peers. They can only vote for 5 people. So when you have a list of like 20, there's going to be a good number of people who get snubbed. And we did this last year with our own semifinalists and finalists. So the members of the class 2025 this year are Eric Allen, who is in his 19th year of eligibility. 54 interceptions in his career. The only player in league history with 3 interceptions returned for touchdowns in 2 separate seasons. Jared Allen, the defensive lineman for the Vikings, 136 sacks in 187 games played, and the most safeties in NFL history with 4. Antonio Gates, who I think should have gotten in last year as the first ballot, but it's the second ballot he gets in for. 955 catches, over 11,800 yards, and 116 touchdowns. And the senior finalist, Sterling Sharp, one of the less known tight ends of the 90s. 18 touchdowns in 1994 in his final season, and deserved it, I think, too. So it's the smallest.
Was a tight end or a wide receiver?
Sharp tight end.
And I know Shannon was. Sterling was also?
I think he was both. I think he was wide receiver, but he kind of switched over. I think he played as both, I think, if I recall. It is the smallest Hall of Fame class since 2005, when Dan Marino and Steve Young highlighted a 4-person class. So first let's talk about the guys who got in. Obviously, you and I may not have been around much for Eric Allen and Sterling Sharp's career, but Jared Allen and Antonio Gates, we watched. We grew up with them. Studs. Deserving, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Again, could they have been first ballots? Potentially, but now that you know how restricted it is, what do you make of both of them being in the Hall of Fame?
Like you said, I think it's well deserved. I mean, these were dominant people for a long time. As it goes on, I think you start to see you need to be dominant for longer and longer, which is starting to be why some of these guys aren't getting the voting, I think, right from the get-go. Like a lot of people are concerned that Eli didn't get in this time. Eli was good, but Eli wasn't dominant for as long as some of these guys. Like Antonio, I don't think people understand. Antonio Gates was like a perennial yardage and touchdown monster for a decade, for a long time. And it didn't matter who was there. I mean, he had Phillip Rivers for the majority of it, but he was relevant before. Was he there before?
I think they came in around the same time, if not.
I think it was
a little
close,
bit
but he was
different.
definitely relevant after.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to put into words what it really takes. But I don't think that there's a single doubt that those are the guys that deserve to be there.
Oh yeah. No, I think it was well deserved for all of them. I think that, Eric Allen, like I said, this generation might not know of him, but when you see those stats and when you hear those superlatives, it's somebody who basically without him, you don't have guys like Champ Bailey or Darrell Revis or these other Hall of Famers. It's the same argument I make for Lee Smith should have gotten in the Baseball Hall of Fame, because without Lee Smith, you don't have Trevor Hoffman or Mariano Rivera, or these great closers that we have nowadays. So it's the same kind of argument I make there. But listen, I have no issue with those guys getting into the Hall of Fame. I think they all deserve it. What the issue is, though, I think, is the guys that got snubbed. And I know that the ticker talks about Eli. Let's put him on the back burner for a second, because I think a couple guys here that I think we can talk about as people who maybe should have gotten in who didn't get in this time around. A debate that we have constantly on this show. You and I have it all the time, so does Jared. Luke Kuechly versus Patrick Willis. What's the difference between the two guys? Because they had similar careers, similar stats, similar dominant efforts, and yet Patrick Willis is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and Kuechly will probably be a second ballot Hall of Famer. What was the difference?
Franchise.
That probably.
Yeah. Honestly, being dominant on the Niners is not the same as being dominant on the Panthers.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. I mean, they had almost identical seasons, careers. And they were both fantastic players. They're definitely both Hall of Famers. But I think being in Carolina is not the same as being in San Francisco.
But it's almost funny, though, wasn't I do get the franchise, but if you look at their careers, didn't Kuechly go to more playoffs in his time than Willis did, or like further? Was a Super Bowl guy, right? Was he
both played in the Super Bowl?
Did it? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
they both lost, I think. Well, one lost to the Ravens and one lost to the
Broncos, right?
Broncos, yes.
Yeah. Other names that got snubbed this year are the offensive lineman Willie Anderson, Jari Evans, Marshall Yanda. Wide receivers including Reggie Wayne, Steve Smith, and Torrey Holt. Running back Fred Taylor, who was a surprise finalist, I think, because running backs of that ilk, he was a good player, but again, like your argument, you're a good player in Jacksonville, not the same.
But it doesn't mean you shouldn't be a Hall of Famer.
No, of course.
It doesn't mean you don't get in the same time as somebody else.
Right. Linebacker, defensive end Terrell Suggs, which I think is an interesting omission right now.
That is an interesting omission. I don't know if I would have done that. Yeah,
safety Darren Woodson didn't get in. And again, George's not here, so he would be able to yell about this till the cows come home. Adam Vinatieri didn't get in first ballot. No love for the kickers. No love. But yeah, I think when you look through the list of the guys who didn't get in, you could have some interesting omissions there. You almost wanted to say, like, it should be one per class per position group, right? Where that would make sense where, like, if it came down to Kuechly or Suggs, it was one of those two guys, you'd say, all right, well, one guy got in over the other guy because it's the same position group. It kind of makes sense. But to not have either one of them in just shows you the restrictive nature of how the Hall of Fame is. Guys like...
That's the way it should be, I think.
I agree.
It should be
I
restrictive.
absolutely agree with that. It should be. Like, you can't just hand out, to everybody, because I forget who said it. I think I was watching the Knock on the Door documentary, and for this year, and they were saying that there's now, with these 4 that are going in, there's now 365 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame out of the 335,000, I think it was, that played the game. That's pretty restrictive. It's a pretty restrictive list. And, if, again, these guys, you have to get 80%. You can only vote for 5. And it's peers. It's not writers. It's peers that vote. So it's pretty obvious, I think. But I think it's a better way of doing it than the baseball writers. Because, again, I still want to know who didn't vote for each row. But that's just me. Let's move on to the superb owl. The reason why we're all here, well, somewhat. I mean, I'm actually here for the Puppy Bowl at 3 o'clock because, that's what I'm going to watch instead. Yeah, exactly. We got plenty of time. I think there are 2 dogs that I saw, just a little tangent. One is named D-Bone Samuel, and one I think is Saquon Barkley, but spelled Bark, with like more barks.
I was going to say, isn't that how his name is spelled?
Well, yeah, I'm capitalizing all the letters in Bark, obviously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think. But apparently at 6:30 or whatever time it's going to be, there will be a football game played to determine the winner of the 59th edition of the Superb Owl between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And, yeah, we're here. We're at the finale, so let's talk about it. Interesting game on both sides. Interesting things on both sides of the football here for both these teams. The Chiefs are that team that's built for the postseason time and time again. They can struggle in the early parts of the season, or they can be dominant, and it doesn't matter because they're built for the postseason. The defense doesn't get the love it deserves, but Steve Spagnuolo every year cooks up something remarkable in the postseason and makes you remember that these guys are pretty good. But this Philadelphia Eagles team, it seems like they've been churning. Again, the addition of Saquon Barkley has lit a fire under this offense. I mean, for crying out loud, they put up 55 points in the NFC title game against the Commanders. So it's really a battle of, you could say, 2 of the best teams in the league this year. Even if one team was the 2 seed and one team was the 1 seed, that some people question how they got there because 7 games were 1-possession games and there were questionable calls here and there and all of that. So here we are, Justin. Super Bowl 59. I think it's 59, yeah. Math. What are your thoughts going into the game? How are we looking?
It's a different matchup than it was last time. I think we got lost a little bit in the Hurts versus Mahomes matchup last time, where realistically, the winner of this game is going to be the winner of the Saquon versus that defense matchup. And it really comes down to, can Saquon break off the games that he's been breaking off consistently since, I was going to say November, but really the beginning of the year? Or does this Chiefs defense hold up the way it has been holding up for several years now? And can they just make Saquon another one of those check marks that says, hey, we held this running back under 100 yards too? I think it's been, since September they haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
That's a major stat against a team like this Eagles team. It's going to be very interesting to see how they game plan to get Saquon free. And like we said last week, everyone's had a game plan for Saquon. Does theirs work?
Well, I think that's the interesting question is that, this Chiefs front seven, guys like Chris Jones and Adedike Izama have really, and Karlaftis have really been stepping up in this postseason. But then you have those corner blitzes that Spagnuolo loves to draw up. Drew Tranquil coming off the edge, all these other guys. McDuffie has been a star. We've known that he was going to be a star coming out of college. But this feels a little different. It feels a little different because it's just the way So let's talk about this. Last year, this Philadelphia team spiraled out of control at the second half of the season, lost all momentum, and it came down to the fact that they didn't have a creative enough offense. They fired Sean Desai on defense, replaced him with Matt Patricia, and that did nothing for them. Mm-hmm. There is credence this year to the fact that they have two stellar coordinators now in Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, one of whom, Kellen Moore, will all likelihood become the new head coach of the New Orleans Saints after tonight. So the offense has just looked a little more inspiring, but a lot of that has to do with Saquon because Jalen Hurts is still the Jalen Hurts of old, where he's not racking up the passing numbers. They have great weapons on the receiving game. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. They still have a lot of good weapons there, but they're not getting the total numbers because, for one thing, Saquon's just running ragged. He's running like crazy. That offensive line's pushing like crazy for him. But will that play a factor, do you think? Do you think that Jalen Hurts is going to be able to withstand some of these oddball blitz calls that the Chiefs are going to bring in? Because that that's part of the game plan here for Spagnuolo and this Chiefs team. Remember, I think in the AFC title game, they didn't run a safety blitz until the fourth quarter. He waited until the most opportune time to run it and then called it because no one was thinking about it. And then when Josh Allen's sitting there waiting to throw that ball to Kincaid, what happens? That's a blitz, and it causes the time. So do you think the Eagles have prepped for this?
I would assume so. You have to think so. The issue is how do you game plan it? You can't just assume there's going to be a safety or a corner blitz every time. That's a completely different protection. So it's interesting. They have to have a screen or a safety valve guy on almost every play, which they pretty much do anyways. The Eagles love to go underneath. They love to put the balls in the hands of their playmakers. But it is difficult to game plan when you really, truly don't know where that blitz is coming from at what time. So you got to think it's something they're thinking about, but who knows?
On the flip side of it, too, you have the Chiefs offense, which has been built up by Buffalo trading away pieces to them because, obviously, the Bills are helping the Chiefs win these games, clearly, against a very good Eagles defense that got a little bit better this week because Brandon Graham is now off of IR. So that's
is he officially playing?
I think so. I think he's officially playing. I haven't seen anything of the like, but he's activated, so he's going to join that team with Zach Bond, with DeJean, Reed Blankenship, Jalen Carter. If he's so, I think what Jalen Carter had, we all had this week. General malaise, I'm going to call it. But that's the question mark here is that the Chiefs' offense hasn't really faced, I would say, a good defense like the Eagles' defense is this year. The Broncos' defense in Week 18, they weren't playing the Chiefs. They were playing the Kansas City Community College Scrubs. Let's call it what it is here. And if Chris Oladukin was in that game, Jurg, he would have absolutely been a scrub too. Let's be honest. Call it what it is. So that's the question mark here is that will this Chiefs offense, do you think, have any kind of hiccups? Because I don't really, aside from Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy, the running game has kind of been hit or miss. Pacheco was out for most of the season, came back, and he's been better. Kareem Hunt's been good, but he's not the Kareem Hunt of old where he was a threat every time he touched the ball. But these Chiefs find a way. So let's flip that. How does that matchup look to you for the the Chiefs offense against this Eagles D that's been pretty damn good this season as well.
First, Jurger has already shouted out saying no Chris Oladukin slander on this podcast, please.
Well, he's not
here
here.
to defend
He's
himself,
not here.
so
He's not here. He
makes no
has
difference
no
to me,
say in it.
just saying
He's
it.
not shutting the show down.
I think the Chiefs end up scoring first. I think that they do get in and they have a quick Kareem Hunt touchdown. That's how they've set the tone so many times this season. But I think that they get exactly what they've been getting. They're not gonna explode. I don't think, at least not running the ball. They're gonna play a sound, smart game. They're gonna, jam it down your throat in times where there's nothing you can do, and then there's gonna be times where they probably need a yard or two and they don't get it. They're gonna put up decent points, but this Eagles defense, especially the front seven, is a nasty front seven, and I don't think that they can dominate the line of scrimmage on offense the way that they've been used to doing it. That being said, they are going to target some of these younger quarterbacks. They're going to really, I think, try and get DeAndre Hopkins and Worthy involved early. They're going to target Juju. He's just going to be, someone they go after. And they're going to try and throw the ball over the top as best they can. And to do that, they're going to have to sacrifice some plays running into a brick wall.
Yeah.
So don't expect it to be a heavy run day in terms of production, but I don't expect them to stop carrying the ball the way they usually do.
So my thing is that I also like looking for the oddball stuff because we're saying all of these names and we're saying all these guys that we've known all year have been studs and have been really playing well. But if you recall last year in the Chiefs-Niners Super Bowl, that was the breakout game for Jawan Jennings. The breakout game for a guy. Yeah, I know you know. I know you know. But that was a breakout game for Jawan Jennings. So I'm trying to think about if there's anybody on either side of the ball who maybe, offensively, we may not be thinking about as somebody who could be a breakout player in this game. Because remember, if you look at the lineage of Super Bowl MVPs and of guys who have had big games, go back to 22 years now, Deion Branch set the record for most catches in a Super Bowl, right? He wasn't a guy you were thinking about and targeting, Again, last year, Jawan Jennings. Look at the Giants run. David Tyree a couple of years, that helmet catch. But he wasn't a big guy, He wasn't the guy that you thought of, and then he was. So if I had to go for one guy on each side that I think might play a factor, like you say, the Chiefs will score first, and it might be this guy, I'm thinking Noah Gray. If I had to pick somebody.
It's not a bad shout, but I'm not going to lie. I'm really going Kareem Hunt here.
That's fair.
He just so often is the guy. They get the ball first. They drive down the field. They end up on the 1 or the 2. And they do give it to Gray on a quarterback sneak.
Yeah.
Or a tight end sneak, if you want to call it that. But my money's on Kareem Hunt.
That's fair.
They love him in this down situation. He's so good in this situation. He gets the ball. He gets it in. If I'm doing first touchdown and it's the Chiefs, I'm doing Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. I think that's a fair one to look at too. If it's the Eagles' first touchdown, though, I mean, the odds are going to say it's either going to be Saquon or Jalen Hurts. If it's going to be a long run or a tush push, because let's call it what it is here. But what other options could there be for them? Jahan Dotson, maybe, because he's had a renaissance season since the trade.
He really only had the one game, and lucky for them, it's in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I could see them going after him as kind of like look who's here. Paris Campbell, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. Calcaterra is another guy who could, because they do run that 2 tight end set sometimes with Goddard, but then Greg Calcaterra is that other guy who makes a lot of good plays.
I got history also. Some of those other running backs.
I was going to say Kenneth Gainwell.
Gainwell. Those are guys that they like to give the ball in the red zone or in the short yardage situations to kind of mix it up a little bit.
Well, that's leading us to our other part of this discussion, which is going to be prop betapalooza, as I like to call it. because this is going to be the part where we'd have Bars go over all the prop bets, but obviously he's not here either. So this is the other part about the Super Bowl that's kind of gained a lot of traction nowadays is random bets on other things that could happen. So what color Gatorade will be poured on the winning coach is one.
They don't even show it anymore. They're like trying to get rid of that bet.
I know, but what's funny is that I've seen some betting odds that have also said water is going to be thrown, which is an interesting choice. But here's my conspiracy. How do you know it's water and not Arctic Cherry, the white Gatorade? How do you know, right? Obviously, who's going to win the coin toss is a big one. Who scores first? You said the Chiefs will. Then there are those other weird prop bets, like will there be any other halftime show guests aside from SZA with Kendrick Lamar? Everyone thinks that because the Chiefs are in it and because Bad Blood's a song that Kendrick did with Taylor Swift, she might perform in it. Could we see a proposal at the end of the game if the Chiefs win? I mean, that makes the most sense, right, to do. Something I alluded to a couple weeks ago with Bars. Will there be an illegal formation penalty or a false start on the Eagles on a tush push because of the Chiefs? Which leads us to the discussion of, and I know it's one that we hate having, we don't want to have it because it's constant, but a highlight went around the interwebs this week. I don't know if you remember seeing this one. The last Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. The 35 seconds, the third and whatever, the phantom holding call that led to the automatic first down, and the Chiefs kicked the game-winning field goal with 11 seconds to go. Could it happen again? We hate that it has come down to that, but it's a real thing. That and I assume not by their own volition, but it just happens that the flags get thrown, the whistles get blown, the penalties get called. Good, bad, or indifferent. This is the funny little side point that I like to make. You want the fouls to be called when they're fouls. But then you have that 2-minute warning window in the fourth quarter of a close game where all of a sudden you hear the commentator say, let them play. You can't have it both ways now, can you? So I'm not going to ask you directly. I'm going to ask you indirectly. Can you see another scenario happening again where a call can help determine who wins this game?
Can I see it? Absolutely. Am I rooting for it? No. Do I think it's going to happen? I hope not. But I could definitely see it happening. And unfortunately, lately, it seems like too many of these games are decided by poor referee calls. But, there's only so much you could do. Human error is part of the game at this point.
Right.
I mean, unless you're going to get rid of the refs and make it all coming from New York. But even New York doesn't always get the call right. So it's hard to say what's right and what's wrong. It is a shame that it does tend to only happen for specific teams, which I think is something that the NFL really needs to get ahead of, or I guess try and get ahead of, because right now they're behind it.
Right.
But let's just hope it's not something that gets too much weight tonight.
Well, I mean, they were supposed to ban hip drop tackles this year, right?
Yeah, but how do you call that?
I don't know. But
It's
again,
so hard to call.
If you're going to say that, follow through on it. I don't know. That's just my thing. But alrighty, we are wrapping up the show, and in order for us to do that, we have to go to the final pick challenge. Now, I don't want to bring this up, but I'm gonna have to, because when we all did 2 weeks ago our 4-person championship game picks, I do recall you saying something, Justin, that whoever picks the right Super Bowl should win something, like a trophy of some kind.
Yeah. Did you buy yourself a trophy?
Well, no, Jerg won. I didn't.
Jerg won?
Yeah. But I think you did that because you're still trophyless. So
no, that's not why I did it.
Okay, well,
I don't think I said specifically a trophy. I just thought that they should win something.
Win something, yeah. Well, this is your chance. because it is one-on-one unless Jerk decides to bring in his 2 cents. And picking.
His name, and I just assumed I was going to get a text message.
Although honestly, I'm hoping he's asleep right now because I know that what he's got is pretty vicious. So sleep missed a big game, So all right, but this is it. The final pick challenge of the season. Superb Owl 59 in New Orleans. Destiny and Dynasty. Eagles, Chiefs. Justin, who are you picking?
This is a tough one. This is as tough a game that we've had all year, to be completely honest, because it's two things that if they were betting on other teams, the thing that I think is going to determine the game is the matchup, obviously, like I said, between Saquon and the defense. And both of those things are things that if they were playing other teams, I would bet on them winning. You know what I mean? So it's the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. And to me, it's really a toss-up. I don't have a team that I think is going to win more than the other. So that being said, I have no real stake in the game either. I'm just going to go Philly. I think I'd rather see Saquon go off than the Chiefs make history. Although I guess Saquon would be making history if he goes off. So I think that's the way I'm going to go. But it still hurts. It's still hard to bet against the Chiefs. It is.
Yeah, it's difficult. It really is difficult to bet against them when everything seems to go their way. Yep.
Before you make a choice, I'm curious, are you allowed to choose the Eagles if you really thought they were going to win?
Well, so
I know marrying a Giants fan,
That's the conundrum, though. As much as she hates the Eagles, she really doesn't like the Chiefs. She's done with all of this. She's done with the rest of the world. She's done with the dynasty. She's done with Mahomes. She's done with Taylor Swift. She's done with them getting all the calls. So, but that being said,
you're not betting against them.
Look, there's too many elements at play that dictate what's going to happen here. And I mean, yes, Saquon Barkley has had a phenomenal season and phenomenal postseason too. And he will probably go off in this game. Win, lose, or draw. Can't draw, but wish you could. But win or lose, he will probably go off in this game. I would venture to say that there's a good shot that Saquon could be Super Bowl MVP, win or lose. And they've never done that before where they've given the Super Bowl MVP to a losing team. But I think that Saquon has that shot because I can see him running for over 200 yards in this game. My problem is when it's not Saquon running the ball, I don't know if I trust this Eagles offense to do a whole lot.
AJ Brown has to step up.
He's got to step up, but again, that's going to be on Trent McDuffie to stop him, and I think McDuffie is a very good corner who can shoulder the load here and take it down. And on the flip side, too, I think the Chiefs just have that creativity on their offense. A lot of different weapons they can use. Like you said, there are going to be guys coming out of the woodwork that we don't expect. Juju could have a big game. Like, big for him was 5 catches, but still, it's a big game. Noah Gray, big game. Kareem Hunt, maybe even help. Maybe they do some gadgetry and Mahomes catches a touchdown pass for some reason. Who knows?
No chance.
Right. Why not?
No chance.
But I think that when it comes down to it, I think the story is just there. And I don't want to say that it's leading that way, but it kind of is. They want a three-peat. They want this team to do it. They will do it. It hurts me. It really, truly does hurt me. But it's going to be the Chiefs. Because the lesser of two evils, I suppose, right? Give it to the team that is far enough away that nobody really cares, at least for us, versus a team with a fan base that's close by, that nobody likes, that hopefully they're, for the sake of not repeating what happened last time, you're greasing those light poles. or you're taking them down. Because we don't want that to happen again. That student that passed away, prayers to his family, but like we don't want that happening again. Conversely, if they lose, they're going to riot in Philadelphia because let's be honest here. That's what they do.
Well, they said, did you see the meme where it's like it's the two hallways, but in the end, it's the same area, and it says Philadelphia wins, Philadelphia loses, and at the end of the hall, it's the Philadelphia crime rate goes up. And of choice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one way or the other, there's going to be. I would stay out of Philadelphia proper tonight, just one way or the other, because go get your cheesesteaks next weekend when there's nothing really going on. Don't get them right now. Very simple. But yeah, so I'm thinking Kansas City, partially because I think that's going to happen, partially because I want you to win something. So the Eagles win, you get to win something, you get to claim that you won something. So again, I got no third pick here from Jurg, therefore he can't join one side or the other, so it's just you and me. So you can win something today,
We'll see. I haven't won anything all year, at least not on this show.
Well, you've won some things, just in other avenues and aspects and whatnot. What are your before we go, what are your Super Bowl plans? Anything fun? I know we talked a couple years ago about like the food. Anything fun? Anything exciting?
Nothing really. It's gonna be a strap down year. It snowed a lot this year, so I think most people are staying home. A lot of people are sick. Usually we do some sort of party or something like that, but it's gonna be boring this year.
Yeah. What's funny? I told you this too in our chat yesterday. We went to the grocery store and spent $115 on like essentials. But like we're doing fresh food now because we're trying to get over whatever. We're also trying to give my daughter like fresher ingredients so she's not eating chicken nuggets all the time. But I can't imagine where if we were hosting a party too, or we were going to a party and had to bring food, how much that bill would be. Because it's nuts, man. It's nuts out there. So whatever you're doing, whatever you are, wherever you are, enjoy it. Stay safe. Do the best. Watch the game or don't if you're like me. Just eat and not. And don't watch the halftime show if you don't want to. It's okay. Like you don't have to. Are you at all excited for the halftime show, or are you like?
Kendrick.
Okay, you like Kendrick.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if you like Kendrick, great. If you don't, walk out of the room at that point, get some drinks, and talk to people.
Just put the game on and go have a good time. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to put it on if you don't want to. I don't care. I'm gonna watch it.
And as was the case last year too, I'm gonna reiterate my stance here, because remember last year at this time, the rant podium about the state of emergency for loneliness. Go out to a party or go to a bar or go meet somebody. Go have fun. Be with people. If you really want to watch the game by yourself, fine. But don't cry about it later because you said you're lonely. You had your opportunity. I'm telling you to do it again. This is like my Sermon on the Mount basically every year. Go make friends. Very simple. That'll do it for our show tonight. Very quick, very nice, very basic. Justin and I are going to get over whatever we have. Jorg's going to recover from the grave. And I think next week will be our season finale. We'll take some time off, and I got to figure out who my new fandom team is because it ain't the Jets anymore, after last year. Hey, listen, that means we get new jerseys.
We should have never accepted you back. It's your fault.
Oh, come on. I mean, y'all never said Aaron Rodgers back, and look what happened to you,
Well, I just saw a report that they think they're going to move on now.
Good. Move on from him. Let him just go and do his own thing.
What do you care? You're gone anyways.
I know, but it's a Paul on the team. I want you to have a new quarterback with your new head coach.
I just want some sort of success. I'm not even asking for a lot. I just feel like maybe a playoff appearance for the first time in 15 years would be nice.
Well, today is the start of that. If the Eagles win and you win the pick challenge, today could be the start.
I didn't win the pick challenge.
This pick challenge between you and me for the big game. This is pick of destiny, man.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, pick of destiny, not pick of destiny because who cares about Peyton or Eli? Pick of destiny, you and me. Come on.
Not the Hall of Fame voters. Anyways.
Yeah, anyways. Thank you all for watching the show tonight, and go have fun, go enjoy. We'll see you back next week when we'll hopefully have better voices and we'll hopefully be in better shape. But for Justin, it's Podfather. Take care of yourselves. Stay healthy, stay warm, and stay with the football. Enjoy. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.